Blessed Sabbath, a blessed Sabbath today on the 6th of June. It's a lovely day, beautiful Sabbath, birds singing outside, good weather, and want to thank the Lord for giving us that privilege to meet again. We meet again today on a Sabbath to enjoy the holy hours of God and to enjoy tabernacle with our God on this feast of the Word. Feast and enjoy the Word, eat it and drink from it so that we can be quenched. Today we're going to have a subject on Elijah. We have seen that we have been promised the last Elijah, a prophet in the last day. But my question would be, has that person come? Has he? Or, because you cannot futurize everything to say he will come, or she will come, or she will come. Has that person come already? And how can we further identify Elijah of the day? If that person has come, we have to know from the scriptures if the person has come or is yet to come, because already people are talking about going to heaven. They are talking about going anytime, but has that servant come? If that servant have come, then you and I have got to run for salvation. Otherwise, this history will be repeated. What happened when Christ came the first time? There was John the Baptist who was preparing the way for Christ. And when Christ came, some people never even guessed. And when they saw John the Baptist baptizing people, preparing the way for Christ, most people lost it that time. So we don't want to do the same. So has that person come? Who is that one? How can we best identify that person? Because I've been seeing so many people say, who is he, or who is she? We want to know. But let's study the scriptures to see if that person is really. You know, one thing so sinister with prophets, all in the Bible, in the Testament, Old and New Testament. One property with prophets is one. People realize the work when that prophet is finished. That's one sinister uniqueness in the work of the prophet. Most people realize the prophet after the prophet has finished the work. So meaning after people have lost out. And also the prophets, those that are dead already, they have been recognized after they are dead. When they are still alive, nobody. They were talking about Moses. And that Moses, when Moses was working, nobody recognized. He had a lot of people in the wilderness who were rebelling against him, who didn't even know who he was. And only a few people who knew who Moses was are the only ones who benefited. We saw Joshua taking over after Moses died. Joshua took over because he was always with Moses all the time. He knew who Moses was. Excuse me. He knew who Moses was. It was not a guesswork to Joshua. And we saw even when the disciples were with Christ, most of them, these disciples, didn't know. You remember Christ asking them and was saying, who do people say I am? And we saw the impulsive Peter was saying, oh, some think you are Elias. Some think you are, people didn't know who Christ was in his time. They didn't know. But there were some who knew. And of those who knew, some didn't even want to come up clear to say, we know you are the Son of God. If you can go to John chapter 14, you find what I'm talking about. Verse 42. Yeah. Where it says, nevertheless.
Verse 42?
Yeah. 12, verse 42.
12 verse. Okay.
Yeah.
Nevertheless,
Yeah.
among the chief rulers,
Right.
also many believed on him.
Do you see? When Christ was walking in this earth, most people didn't know about him, but chief rulers knew. Even those who were in the church, they knew who Christ was. Listen to that. It's very painful. Yeah?
But because of the Pharisees,
Mm-hmm.
they did not confess
There
him.
were leaders up there, the Pharisees. Because of them, most who knew who Christ was did not confess him openly. Why? They were scared of the Pharisees. Imagine. They were scared of those who were leading, so that they did not want to be known. You remember, there's that man, Nicodemus, who came by night. And just the action only of coming by night to see Christ. That action only showed Christ why Nicodemus came by night. He was scared. And Christ just told him one thing: go and be born again. You haven't started. Because look at the words. Just listen to the words that Nicodemus said. There's no other preacher. There's no other messenger like you who can perform miracles and perform all like you. Only that one who is the Son of God. And then Christ was saying, you know such, do you know that? Why then do you come by night? So Christ was just looking at Nicodemus, coming by night, knowing all that, and said, as you know all that, why are you coming by night? The only answer was, go and be born again. Go and start over with God again. You are not genuine. You are really not genuine. Why come by night? Why are you coming by night? If you really know, this was a great preacher. This was a great teacher who was brought from God. Why then come by night? So, how many people are coming by night at this minute who know, like Nicodemus? Here we are told by John 12, verse 42. Nevertheless, among the chief rulers, they also knew that Christ was coming from above. But what did they do? They never confessed him, scared of the leaders of the Pharisees. They were scared. Listen to what they wanted to maintain on the next verse. What is it?
But because of the Pharisees,
Mm-hmm.
they did not confess him,
Right?
lest they should be put out of the synagogue.
They only wanted to safeguard the wall of their synagogues. That's all they wanted, to make sure they are inside that wall. But they cannot openly confess Christ, because I can be chased from this, I can be disfellowshipped, I can be... They're only scared of that. You know, why do they want the wall? Why? They want... some people just go to church for one reason. I will have someone who will bury me when I'm dead. So the answer is, God will have you dead and someone to bury you. That's it. That's all what you wanted, isn't it? Some people go to church because they want, if I want to get married, I'll have someone to preside over me. But they forget that the marriages are coming from the land. The land is authorized for us to get married. Here said they wanted, lest they will be chased out of the synagogue. They only wanted to maintain membership. So they can't confess, because so and so, if so and so hears, I will be disfellowshipped. That's what it was in the time of Christ. And what? What is it that they wanted more?
For they loved the praise of men.
They loved the praise of men.
More than the praise of God.
More than the praise of God. Imagine how weird. You want the praise of men who will never even wipe your tears when you are crying. Who will never even spoon feed you when you can't feed yourself. You run away from the praise of God. And you want the praise of men. This is what they were doing. How they rejected Christ. When he came, they did not recognize him, though they knew he's actually the Son of God. How can Lazarus be raised out of the dead after 4 days being dead? And then you still, he performed all those miracles. Christ performed all those miracles to prove his divinity. But no one accepted it. No one. And even in this day, people are asking, who is it? Who is it? You know what? That answer, when you're asking such a question, you know. You really know. You know. It's not asked by somebody who doesn't know. Somebody who doesn't know cannot ask such a question. You know. They actually were doing that to Christ. They say, show us a sign. How many signs had he shown? How many signs? If you go to Desire of Ages, go and read all those topics that talk about unless I see a sign. I won't, unless, you know what? When he would show a sign, what was the next reaction? Doubt. I doubt anyone can do that. You remember when Moses was going to Farah? He had a rod, and he threw the rod on the floor, and it became a snake. And what did the magicians do? They threw theirs also. Why? So that Pharaoh doubts. So whatever you want to take as an evidence that this one is or this one is not, everybody can do it. That is what is making you blind. More also because as Christendom has not accepted there is a prophet. They all accept there is a pastor. But the whole Christendom does not accept there is a prophet. And the fact that there are other prophets that are false to us is one fact that there is a true one. So Christendom has not accepted there is a prophet. They actually say the prophets were for Old Testament. They were for long. West, those who are keeping the Sabbath, they don't accept. Because we have been brought up that way, we will not understand when the prophet is sent. Now, for today, we're going to start with a quotation from CET, page 244.2.
In harmony with this injunction, believers in Christ are urged to give candid consideration to the evidences of divine guidance in the Advent movement of the present day.
Believers in Christ and the Advent movement, in harmony with this injunction of what? Of Elijah, isn't it? Believers in Christ are urged to give candid consideration to the evidences of divine guidance in the Advent movement of the present day. Which one is the present day? Today. What are we being urged? We are being urged to check if there is no prophet. Now, the next sentence, what does it say?
And the manifestation of the gift of prophecy connected with this movement.
The movement of the present day and the manifestation of the voice of prophecy, which is together with this, the movement of today. We are supposed to be enlightened. And what?
To disregard the work of the Holy Spirit as manifested through this gift is perilous.
To disregard, imagine, to disregard the work of the Holy Spirit through prophets, as manifested through this gift of prophets, is perilous. If you just say, I don't need Someone just simply say, well, no, we don't have. To disregard that there is no prophet in this present day, last movement, is very perilous to your salvation. And what?
Yet
Yet
we are admonished
right?
to beware of false prophets.
We are being admonished to beware, because we were brought up scared of anyone who comes with any light. That's our custom. We are scared. Do you know what? I saw somebody scared of a dog and running to a lion. Well, at least we are scared of the dog. Are we not running to be under a lion? This is what I know. That's why I'm saying we were brought up as people who are scared of being misled. But here he says, beware of false prophets. That's what, yet we are being admonished to beware of false prophets. Right? Read that sentence again.
Yet we are admonished to beware of false prophets,
right?
Which come to you in sheep's clothing,
yeah?
But inwardly they are ravening wolves.
We are being warned to beware of false prophets. Right? And what?
And the test is given.
Ye shall know them by their fruits. It does not say they are not there. That text. It says, while we are being admonished to beware of false prophets, but the true ones will be known by their fruit. This is what Sister White says. The true warnings, the true prophets will be manifested by their fruits. By their fruit, you shall know them. But let's proceed there and see.
Point 3.
Right.
As well might men accept to gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles.
Right. So, do you gather grapes from thorns? Do you? Meaning, which ones are the fruits? The fruits of a prophet are the fruit that we should know are the ones that show us who is the prophet. We cannot gather grapes. We cannot accept messages when we don't accept prophets. So meaning the prophet will come with a fruit. And the fruit makes you know who is a prophet. Now read on, yeah?
As well might men expect to gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles, as to find unadulterated truth and sanctifying power emanating from a base deceiver.
Can a base deceiver give you a good, truthful message? So those are the two things. I'm learning of two things here. There is a message and a messenger. So how do we know? Most of us here don't even know Sister White. We never met Sister White. In our generation, we never. But what have we met? Her books. When you read them through, we know she was a prophet. Now, this is what God is saying. He's saying, how do we know there is a prophet? We know there's a prophet from the fruits. From what? From her books. From what Sister White wrote. Then we know she was a prophet. We had never met her. We are only told. We didn't even inquire, who is it? Where is it? No, we didn't. We read the books. We read the books from Sister White. And those are the ones that showed us she was a prophet. Now, read on and finish that, yeah?
Every good tree
bringeth forth good fruit. Right? If the message is good, someone will say, yes, the message, yes, the message is quite good, quite well. But what about the messenger? Because if this glass is good, the water is good, I drink it. If the water is good, the glass is good. Now here, read on.
But a corrupt tree,
right,
bringeth forth evil fruit.
Right. By their fruit ye shall know them. I've heard some saying, well, okay, I'm a prophet. Then you ask, which one is the day of the Lord? Then it says, no, it doesn't mention the Sabbath. It doesn't mention something else. Then by their fruit ye shall know them, to the law and to the testimony. And then I said, okay, shall we keep the statutes, the commandments, and that's what God said. The statutes, the commandments. What Elijah is being sent with is sent with the statutes and the commandments and the judgments and the testimonies. Those are the 4 that were given on Mount Sinai to Moses. Now, and someone says, no, I only have the commandment. I don't have all these ones. Now, by their fruit, ye shall know them. By their fruit. If I say Sabbath is today, and you say Sabbath is tomorrow, or Sabbath is Monday, or Sabbath is Tuesday, by their fruit we shall know them. If come to the camp meeting, I say today is the 15th day of the 7th month, being in October there, and then you tell me that your 15th day of the 7th month, your 7th month is August. By their fruit we shall know them. By their fruit. Does someone gather grapes out of the thorns? So I tell you so much. Don't run to a lion. Run away from a dog, running into them. You know, some people have got, you jump from a pan to fire. You understand? Jump from, you don't even know it's fire. That's what I've heard in terms, isn't it? Now, by their fruit, we shall know. If you practice something that is not biblical, practice something that is not a thus saith the Lord, then we know that's where we are gathering the prophet. So now, today our book is going to be GCS. GCS on chapter 4, that's where we are going to start. And for the second paragraph.
Okay, 4.2.
Yeah.
Has Elijah the prophet already come?
Has Elijah already come? Right?
Is the ancient prophet to appear in person himself?
Is that prophet supposed to appear in person? Right?
Is a group of people to do a work similar to that of the ancient Elijah?
Or what?
Or what?
That's a question on our topic. Right? For us to proceed, let's go to Great Controversy, GC 561, first paragraph.
Marvelous.
Right, marvelous. Yeah?
Marvelous beyond expression
right?
is the blindness of the people of this generation.
It's so marvelous. The blindness of the people in this generation is marvelous, according to Sister White, isn't it? Of this generation, the blindness. Have you heard someone? I know of something which is marvelous when it is good. Something that is bad, which is marvelous. You know, our not knowing the current status, how God works in this time, is so marvelous. It's marvelous beyond expression. That's what Sister White said. It's beyond expression. And yet prophesying to be worshiping God. Today is a Sabbath, everyone is happy, But look at what you see everywhere. Marvelous beyond expression is the blindness of the people of this generation. How is the blindness? It's so marvelous. Beyond expression. The blindness is marvelous. How people sweat and preach and what? At the time we should be preaching the 5 angels' message, they're still preaching the 3rd. That's marvelous. That is marvelous. That is marvelous. When are they going to the 4th? When are they going to the 5th? That's marvelous. This is what I heard. Right, read one, let's hear. Thousands
reject the word of God as unworthy or belief and with eager confidence receive the deceptions of Satan.
How marvelous is that? Thousands. What are they saying? To hell. To hell with the feast. To hell with the statutes. And yes, God has promised us. He's sending someone with the statutes and judgment. And the statutes are the feasts. And people will what they are preaching is just the Sabbath since 1844. How marvelous is that blindness? It says beyond expression. Beyond expression. Marvelous beyond expression is the blindness of the people of this generation. So marvelous, like it was in the time when Christ came. You know, there is a reason why he had to send John the Baptist. Why does God send John the Baptist? He says, I will send you Elijah. In John the Baptist was a partial fulfillment of the Elijah which we have in our time. The partial fulfillment. Why would he send somebody to prepare a way when there is numerous pastors, numerous people, men of God, numerous? Why is he sending somebody? Why? Because the blindness was marvelous, beyond expression. When he came the first time, there was real blindness. People were locked up in blindness, locked up. That's why Ephesians chapter 4 tells you that when he descended, when he ascended, he carried captives, captive. They were captivated by the devil. They were captivated. They were locked in a bottomless pit. When he came, it was a bottomless pit of the devil. That even the laws had been made a burden. That they were actually practicing killing the lambs and preparing for the coming of Christ. When he came, he found them very dull, beyond expression. Only 12 followed him. Who the 12 also were not even part of him. They only were doubting him also. That's why he was asking Peter, who do people call me? And Peter said, oh, they call you Eli. They call you this, they call you. And then he asked a direct question. What do you think I am? Only Peter answered and said, you are the Son of God. And he says, but Jonah, it's not from flesh, it's from the Spirit that you should know who I am. So it's the spiritual. If you find someone asking who you is still under flesh. Those who are spiritually led will not ask such a dull question. They simply move on with the light. Now here it says the blindness this generation is, yet sincerely worshipping God. There is a quotation which says the startling denunciation to Laodicea finds the people in a great deception, but honest in the deception. And that was a startling denunciation to Laodicea. So, but here we are being told that the blindness was marvelous, beyond expression. You can't even express it. We have been hammered on and on that the messages of Revelation 14, the messages coming to us as a people are 5, but we are stuck on 3. That's marvelous. Marvelous deception. And we are honest in it. Now read on.
Skeptics
and scoffers
denounce the bigotry of those who contend for the faith of prophets and apostles.
What are the skeptics saying? Someone say, no, he's a skeptic. Someone say, who is he? So we can believe. Who is he? That's skeptic. Scoffers. Skeptics, scoffers denounce the bigotry of those who contend for the faith of prophets. Anyone who say we have a prophet, people laugh their lungs out. But what are they called by the spirit of prophets? They are called skeptics. They are scoffers. They laugh. They say we don't have a prophet. And it's not me saying that. It's the spirit of prophets, which we believe. In your book, in my book, it says those who say there is no prophet, these are scoffers. These are skeptics. These are denouncing their bigotry. They are denouncing the ministry of the very means God has selected for their salvation. They are scoffers. They are skeptics. They don't open up their minds to understand what God wants. This is what Sister White is saying. Read on, yeah?
Skeptics and scoffers denounce the bigotry of those who contend for the faith of prophets and apostles.
Right?
And they divert themselves by holding up to ridicule the solemn declarations of the scriptures covering Christ and the plan of salvation.
Right. What do? And they divert. After laughing at people who say there is a prophet, they divert. Yeah? They divert themselves by holding up to ridicule the solemn declarations of the scriptures concerning Christ and the plan of salvation. What is the plan of salvation? The statutes. The plan of salvation is in the sanctuary services. They ridicule the feasts. They ridicule by holding on that these were nailed to the cross. These are scoffers. These are skeptics. This is what the scripture says. And what? And the retribution, right?
And the retribution to be visited upon the rejectors of the truth.
And you tell them there's still a lot of Ezekiel 9 coming. They ridicule it. They say, no, there's nothing. These are false prophets. These are what? They call names. They are ridiculing the punishment which is going to come to the rejectors. And what? Did they do that to Noah? Yes. He was warning them that the flood is coming. They ridiculed that punishment. The flood was a punishment to those who rejected. They laughed, they scoffed at Noah. And they do that to those who believe they are prophets. Same scoffing which was done to Noah. Same skeptic, bigotry, ridiculing, which was done to Noah. To those who say, we have a prophet in the last day, they will be laughed at. They will be scoffed. They will be told all sorts of things. This is a fulfillment of that prophecy. And what?
They affect great pity for minds so narrow,
right,
weak and superstitious as to acknowledge the claims of God and obey the requirements of His law.
Those who obey the requirements of the law, those who obey what God has promised, that there is a prophet in the last day. These people, they say they feel pity for them. What pity? You should pity. People try to feel pity for Christ. And Christ said, go and cry for your children and their parents. They are going to be destroyed. Don't feel pity. Instead, the whole ministry of Christ, people were feeling pity for him, saying he was false. He was what? But who did they feel pity? Who needed pity more? It's them. Those who were rejecting Christ, they needed all that pity. But who were they feeling pity for? For those, I saw someone laughing, ha ha ha, we will really pray for you. Ah, ha 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 ha. You are praying for who? Praying for who? You praying for? I am keeping the law of God. I am believing in what God promised. You pray for me? Pray for yourself and your children. So here, read on.
They manifest as much assurance as if indeed they had made a covenant with death an agreement with hell.
This is how it is to make a covenant with death. We saw Isaiah 28 saying, their people are making a covenant with death. This is how it is. It's scoffing the things of God. It's laughing at messengers sent by God. That is making a covenant with death. And what?
As if they had erected an impassable, impenetrable barrier between themselves and the vengeance of God.
As if they have a wall that they are building. At least those who are building the Tower of Babel, they were deceiving themselves anyway, saying, if the rain comes, next time we'll climb up there. But these ones, they proclaim as if they are building a wall which will stand the judgments from God. What wall do you have? We are all in our houses even now. Some of these judgments are coming. Pestilence and everything. We are locked down. There's no wall to safeguard you except to worship God. You have to worship God and honor Him and kneel down and ask God to protect you. Read on.
Nothing can arouse their fears.
Right? There are people, whether you say this or you say that, even Christ said, you know what? Even if they hear someone coming from the dead, they will never move. They will never move an inch. They will never be fearful at all. And what?
So fully have they yielded to the tempter. So closely are they united with him.
Right?
And so thoroughly imbued with his spirit that they have no power and no inclination to break away from his snare.
Now, the snare, the devil is doing also his bit. Sending someone, when God sends somebody, the devil also sends somebody to say, oh, no, forget. The devil is doing that. So here he's saying, they have imbued with his spirit. There are people who are imbued with the spirit of the devil just to castigate the things of God, just to make sure everything is null and void. Now, this is what the spirit of prophecy is saying. Go to GCS 6.2. However,
I would remind you.
I will remind you, brethren. That's what it says. I will remind you, brethren. Right?
That no prophet of God has ever been welcomed by the church.
Did you know that? Let's remind ourselves. Check the history. No prophet of God has ever, no prophet of God has ever been welcomed by the church. Why were they sending Sister White for testing for medicine? They were testing. They were actually coming with their hands to check if she was in a vision. They wanted to check to see if she was breathing. That's why they have a proof that she wasn't breathing. They wanted to check the eyes to see whether it's blinking. That's why they have a proof that she was not blinking. Why were they doing all that? Because they did not accept her as a prophet. Why would God bring Sister White with all those manifestations? Because we never saw Moses doing that. We never saw even John the Baptist doing that. But why did God allow Sister White to come with all that? No blinking, no breathing, no what? Because we were hard to believe in prophets. We were hard. Yeah? In 1844, the brethren were so hard of belief. Right. And then, on the contrary,
each in his time was rejected.
Each in his time. Don't tell me she was accepted. On the contrary, each prophet in his time was rejected. What about the last time? Will people come with this? Show us, and then when they find that person, there is the person, they will come and hug and kiss and what? Do you think they will do that? Each in his time was rejected. Do you know that? That's why even the highest, the greatest prophet was not only rejected, was killed. Christ was killed for claiming to be the Son of God. Yeah?
On the contrary, each in his time was rejected, abused, 2, and most of them were martyred by the ones to whom they were sent.
Do you see what happened to them? Abused, rejected, and killed. This is what happened to the prophets. Why were they dying? Because no prophet was accepted in any church. No prophet from God will ever be accepted. No, if you think there's a show us so that we bring that prophet in front of everyone in church so that people will say amen. You're fooling yourself. It has never happened. That has never happened. The prophets will only be abused, rejected, and killed. That's what happens to them. And what?
The very ones who were supposed to be serving God.
Right?
Indeed, the Lord himself paid the same price.
When Christ moved on this earth, he had all those 3 parts: abused, rejected, killed. He paid the same price. You tell me, show us please, show us. You should be busy to saying, what does the message say? Instead of show us. What does the message say? That's all you have to be searching for. Search for the message. Once you get the message, quietly you know where the messenger is. That's it. And what?
For this very reason, we must remember that when the last prophet comes,
right,
he will have the greatest opposition to meet.
The greatest opposition will be met by the last prophet. Greatest. That's the last final war in the church. That's why Revelation 2 verse 17 said the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to fight those who keep the commandments and have a prophet. That's the last war from the dragon. Because we have been promised here that that war, when the last prophet comes from the devil, the war from the devil will be serious, because it's a final win-win. It's a final win-win for people to be in the kingdom. Never mind people smearing. You go to smear somebody. That's a tactic used by the devil to smear people that are sent by God, so that people do not understand the message. So, which message is smeared the most? Check. Is your message being smeared or is being welcomed? That's why Luke chapter 6 says, you know what they do? Go to Luke chapter 6. What they did to the false prophet. What do they do? Chapter 6 verse 26. Luke. What do they do? If you want to prove you are false, check how the people receive your message. Right, what?
Woe unto you.
Woe unto you.
When all men shall speak well of you.
Right, that's what people are trying to maintain their good names on the things of God. You want to maintain your good name on the things of God. Are people hating you for nothing else but God, but worshiping? Or if people are hating you for worshiping God, you should be happy. If people love you for worshiping God, he says, woe unto you. Woe unto those who want to have those clean names to say, because I've knelt down and I've raised my hands and I'm doing what, and people who don't kneel down will scoff at you. People who don't kneel and raise their hand, they will scoff at you. They will not say well done. If they come and say well done to you, then you are wrong. Now, woe unto you. Start 26.
Woe unto you, when all men shall speak well of you.
Yeah.
For so did their fathers to the false prophets.
Those who are spoken well of. Check with the fathers, the prophets, the false ones. It's not a true one. Christ himself was the greatest prophet. Only walked with 12 people. They are the ones that he ate with him, that were all the time with him, slept on the mountain, on this hill with him, went down the hill, down Jericho, everywhere he was traveling. He is 12 prophet. Why did he have the whole world? Because he is the greatest prophet. Why didn't he have the whole world? Because he was a true prophet. Because he was a true. You brag of numbers, you know what they mean to God. You brag of numbers, those numbers mean you are false. Terribly false. Unspeakably false. That's what Luke chapter 6 says. Woe unto you, when all men speak well of you. Woe unto you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets. They speak well of them. You know, you want to work for names? If you are doing, people say, Duve, Vakiti, that's a man of God. Woe unto you. Because that doesn't happen to a true prophet. Go to verse 22. What the true prophet is.
Blessed are ye.
Blessed are ye.
When men shall hate you.
When men hate you.
And when they shall separate you from their company.
And they separate and disfellowship you from their company.
And shall reproach you.
And reproach you.
And cast out your name
and
as
call
evil.
your names as different names of all horrible people on you.
For the Son of Man's sake.
Because you have done nothing wrong but worshipped God. And what?
Rejoice ye in
that
that
day when that thing happens to you. Rejoice. and leap for joy. Leap for joy. What?
4.
4.
Behold,
Yeah.
your reward is great in heaven.
That's the greatest reward in heaven.
For in the like manner
yeah.
did their fathers
right?
unto the prophets.
They did their fathers unto their prophets. Unto the prophets who were true, they rejected them. They crucified, they killed them, they abused. They said all sorts of names without any feeling to say, what am I saying to somebody who has never even spoken to me? Yeah? You find people talking about that person who God has sent as evil, and even those who have never even met that person talking about that person as evil. That person's prize in heaven is great. That person, so check. It's for you an insight if you want to see the true one. Check who are the people talking nasty about in all the regions. Who is that person? Then you know there is a prophet. Don't check on those that are being spoken well of right across the board. They are, according to Luke chapter 6, verse 26, false. They are false. You want to look for the prophet? Let's look for the prophet together. Let us check who it is. We will find it. Without mentioning names, we should find it. Someone say, you're giving me hints. You are just hinting and hinting and hinting, not even saying it clearly. You know what? You cannot feel hints when you do not know the truth. Only those who know who it is feel the hints. If you feel any hints, then you know who it is. So you have no need to ask anybody. Now let's go to GCS 7.1.
It is therefore only to be expected that the predicted Elijah
right
will be denounced as a false prophet.
Right.
Perhaps even as the Antichrist
right?
offshoot
or
what not.
Or what not. Did you hear? Let's look for Elijah. Come on, let's look for Elijah. Yeah, we want to look for Elijah. Yeah. And when Christ came, he knew he was carrying all these credentials. Every prophet in the Bible knew that these are the credentials. So that's why he has no fun with anyone. He's not even looking for anyone's favor. He was not even looking for anybody to favor him anyway. He knew those are the credentials in his head, on his head. He knew that I will be abused, I will be rejected, I will be spoken against, I will be told all sorts of names, I could also be killed. That's all a prophet knows. All those three. All them three. They can happen to a prophet. So when you are a prophet, you've got to be ready for all those three. Now, when you want to check who is this Elijah, spoken against, denounced as an offshoot, as a prophet, as a false prophet, as an antichrist, as whatever name you can trash and you can even vomit when you hear the name. Yeah. Careful. You're talking of someone. Not someone that you are happy to come Sabbath. I need someone to preach to me. So and so is going to preach this Sabbath. Come Sabbath. Yes, come Sabbath. You are talking of a false prophet there. Because it's woe unto you when all men speak well of you. Woe. Now, let's proceed again to Malachi chapter 4. Let's find this prophet. Malachi chapter 4, verse 5 and 6. If you can start from verse 4, just to identify what it is. Yeah?
Remember ye the law of Moses, my
right?
servant,
right?
which I commanded unto him in Horeb for
right?
all Israel,
right?
with the statutes and judgments.
Right. We have no hurry. That's why we say we are not preaching, we are teaching. So those who are in a hurry, you can lock up your TV or your gadgets and go somewhere, but you still find time to carry on. That's fine. That's what it's called, teaching. Why in a hurry to discourses of 20 minutes, discourses of what? No. We want to teach step by step. Now, it says here, remember the prophet. It says, remember ye the law of God, that unto Moses it was presented. Let's go and see when it was presented to Moses. Go to Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 13. You should know that Nehemiah chapter 9 by heart. 9, verse 13. Yeah?
Thou camest down
Right?
also upon Mount Sinai,
Yeah?
and spakest with them from heaven,
Right?
and gavest them right judgments,
Right judgment.
and
1,
true laws,
2,
good statutes,
3,
and commandments.
4. How many things came on Mount Sinai? 4 things. Statutes are the feasts. Right? If you want to go to Psalm chapter 81, you read for yourself, verse 1 to 3, you find the statutes are feasts. That one is a new moon. It's a feast. Those are the statutes. So here, remember that law that I gave to Moses of the statutes, judgments, commandments, testimonies. This is what was given on Mount Sinai. Now go to verse 4, Malachi chapter 4 verse 4.
Okay.
Yeah?
Verse 4.
Mm-hmm.
Remember ye the law of Moses my servant,
Mm-hmm.
which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel, with the statutes and judgments.
Now God has picked on those two, statutes and judgments. Why? Because the commandments we all are agreeing, and the testimonies we all are agreeing, but there's 2 laws that we should know that are going to come. Verse 4, verse 5.
Behold,
Yeah?
I will send you Elijah the prophet
Yeah.
before the coming of the great and dreadful day of
Right?
the Lord.
Right. So I said today we want to study and find this man or this woman. We want to find, has that person come? Yes or no? We have to identify that law first that person brings. The statutes and judgments. The statutes are the feast. We saw that. Just go to Psalms 81. Because there are some very less where you give even text, they won't even, but they are very vocal to reject without even checking. Right? Psalms chapter 81, verse 1. Yeah?
Sing aloud
Right?
unto God our strength.
Right?
Make a joyful noise
Right.
unto the God of Jacob.
Right?
Take a psalm
Right?
and bring hither the timbrel,
Right?
the pleasant harp with the psaltery.
Right?
Blow up the trumpet in the new moon,
Yeah?
in the time appointed,
Right?
on our solemn feast day.
Right. So you see, the new moon is a feast day, right? And what?
For this was a statute
It's
for
also
Israel,
a statute.
and a law of the God of Jacob.
It's a lawful. Some can say it could be Psalms 81 just talking about the new moon. Let's go to Leviticus 23 and see all those feasts. Are they not statutes? Go in the last sentence where after talking about the Passover feast from verse 4, 23 verse 4, you find where he says this is a statute at the end of describing the Passover. Start with verse 5.
Verse 5.
Uh-huh.
In the 14th day, on the first month at
Right.
even, is
Right.
the Lord's Passover.
So that is a date. It is on the 14th day at even is the Lord's Passover. Now go to the date at the sentence at the when the verse has finished talking about what should be done on the Passover. The last time, what is it? Right?
Okay.
Verse 9.
Verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying,
Mm-hmm.
Speak unto the children of Israel, and
Mhm.
say unto them, When ye be come into the land which I give unto you,
Mm-hmm.
and shall reap the harvest thereof,
Mm-hmm.
then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your
Right.
harvest
Right.
unto the priest.
Right. So we saw on the Sunday, more after the Sabbath, in the week of the Passover, we bring a wave sheaf or the first fruits. Right. At the end of that, verse 14.
Verse 14.
Uh-huh.
And ye shall eat neither bread.
No, 15. Sorry.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath,
Right.
from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering,
Right.
7 Sabbaths shall be complete.
Right. So 7 Sabbath, which is the Pentecost that we had last Sabbath, last morrow after the Sabbath, which was Sunday. Right.
Verse 16.
Right.
Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath
Mm-hmm.
shall ye number 50 days,
Mm-hmm.
and ye shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord.
Right. 17.
Ye shall bring out of your
I
habitation.
want a sentence which shows what it is. Right? Go after the Feast of Tabernacle, 31.
It shall come to pass that
Right.
it shall be unto you
Right.
a Sabbath of rest,
Right?
and ye shall afflict your souls.
That's
In
the
the
Day of
ninth day.
Atonement. Right. And read on. Day of Atonement.
And ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at even. From even unto even shall ye celebrate your Sabbath.
That's the only fast on a Day of Atonement. Now, on the Passover, you omitted it on verse 14. That's the sentence I'm looking for. The last part of verse 14.
Okay. And ye shall eat neither bread nor parched corn,
Right.
nor green ears,
Right.
unto the selfsame day
Right.
that ye have brought an offering unto your God.
Right.
Maybe verse 41.
14. Last part.
It shall be a statute.
Right. That's the sentence I'm looking for. What is that Passover? The whole Passover. It's a statute. And when the Feast of Tabernacle is finished on verse 41,
Verse 41.
what is the Feast of Tabernacle?
Verse 41.
Verse 41. Yeah.
And ye shall keep it a feast unto the Lord
Right.
7 days in the year.
Right.
It shall be a statute for
The
it
Feast of
forever.
Tabernacle is a statute forever. Right? Do you see that camp meeting that we say camp meeting? It's a statute forever. We're only checking to see if these feasts are statute. What verse 21?
Verse 20.
That's the feast, end of the feast. What is it?
Verse 21.
Uh-huh.
And ye shall proclaim on the selfsame day
Right?
that it may be a holy convocation unto you.
Right?
Ye shall do no servile work therein. It shall be a statute
Right?
forever in all your dwellings.
So that day is a statute on verse 21, isn't it? That's a feast. Verse 31.
Verse 31. Ye shall do no manner of work.
Right?
It shall be a statute forever.
So do you see
throughout
the whole of Leviticus 23 is statutes only? So those are the feasts. So let's go back to Malachi chapter 4. He says, I will bring Elijah with statutes and judgments. So what is it exactly Elijah is bringing? Elijah is bringing feasts. Did you see? From all the verses that we have been reading, Leviticus 23 and also in Psalms 81, that the new moon is a statute, and also Leviticus 23, the whole of those feasts are statute. So all that is what Elijah is bringing. Read on verse 4.
Remember ye the law of Moses,
Right.
my servant,
Right?
which I commanded unto him in Horeb for
Right.
all Israel,
Right?
with the statutes and judgments.
Okay.
Behold,
Right?
I will
So
send.
you see the statutes and judgments. So what is Elijah bringing? We are studying here. We are not preaching. This is teaching. We have to be finding verses together and find which are the statutes that Elijah is bringing. And he says, which I gave in Mount Horeb of the statutes and judgments. And then verse 5.
Verse 5. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet
Right.
before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
Right.
And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children,
That's the
and the heart
only
of the
law.
children.
That's the only law. You keep the 10 commandments. You keep the 10 commandments. All they don't turn your heart to the fathers. They don't turn that. But the only law that will turn the heart of the fathers to their children and the children to the father is the sanctuary law, which are the statutes. These are the statutes that are brought by Elijah, the last prophet. Now let's see. Our aim is to find the prophet. If you come with anything and actually nailing Leviticus 23 and saying these statutes, these feasts are nailed to the cross, you are not even talking about Elijah's message at all. Elijah's message is the statutes and judgments, and we have researched together to find which are the laws called statutes. The commandments are not called statutes. There are 10 commandments, but the statutes are the feasts, and we have seen all the feasts from Passover, Day of Atonement, from Feast of Pentecost, from the Feast of the Camp Meeting, the Feast of Tabernacle. They are all with dates, and they are all at the end called statutes. So which laws are brought by Elijah? The statutes and judgments. And now here, let's go to GC for let's see if we can go to the testimonies. 3T. Yeah, page 62. Testimonies for the church. Volume 3, page 62. First paragraph is where I am. We saw that Elijah was fulfilled partially by John the Baptist, but comes in full before the great and dreadful day of the Lord. So let's see how John is the type of Elijah these days. How was he? What is it exactly that was with John that we should also expect with the very Elijah of the... I said we are just helping each other find Elijah or find the prophet of the hour. Now let's read from that. Say John separated himself, right? The very first thing what John did was what? John
separated himself from friends and from the luxuries of his life.
We want to establish who Elijah is. Not part of us anyway. Operating like John was operating separate there alone. There alone in River Jordan, baptizing people without the Pharisees, without the priests, without anyone. He was alone there. He separated himself. Is it? Yes.
The simplicity of his dress,
right?
A garment woven of camel's hair,
right,
was a standing rebuke to the extravagance and display of the Jewish priests,
right,
and of the people generally.
What were they doing? Those who, I can see even these days people are just putting gowns and everything. I don't know whether that's what happened in the Old Testament or something. I don't know where that said the Lord comes from, but I have seen gowns everywhere. It's okay, you can put on anything as long as they see what you call, if you are modest. This is the uniform that I found in Timothy in chapter 2 verse 9. Timothy, it says you should wear modest apparel. This is what I mean. If that appears modest to you, or a gown or anything, but what John did, he had a simplicity in dressing. Was not even up to date with those who love fashion. He had no brain for that. That brain was not for that. Was just to appear modest, simple, simplicity. His dressing was just the opposite of what we expect. We expect somebody who is just like flowery and fashionable and this, but John wasn't that fashionable with dress. Yeah.
His diet.
There was a diet with Elijah, with John the Baptist. There was a diet. We have a diet also here. I've seen people preaching that John was eating locusts, meaning these insects, locusts. I've been there where he was preaching, and I've seen the locust tree. It's a tree actually. It is some brown, color. In our country, back where I come from, they call it in Ndebele, they say amahaba. It's like a mahaba, like that. I don't know how we can in these markets. It just looks like something like bean, a big pea or something before it is peeled off. That's the locust. John was a proper vegan, and you are telling me he was eating locusts, which are insects. He was a vegan. He was very temperate. I'm not saying you go and be vegans, but I'm saying he was temperate in what went in his tummy. Was not eating everything, every junk, everything. No, for he knew how to protect the brain. He knew how to protect the brain, and a person is made out of what he thinks and what is in the brain. And for you, when you are carrying the word of God, you have got to safeguard anything that makes it be clouded. The brain what we eat beclouds the brain. So you've got to be very highly temperate in what you eat, when to eat, how to eat. Very temperate, because heaven is hanging upon that thread that you, like it was with Daniel. That's why I said, dare to be like Daniel, dare to stand alone. He was very careful. Nothing should pollute. Whatever discussion or saying, nothing, nothing coming into the air to pollute what he has. You have to know the scriptures on a daily basis. Look for scripture, study, and make sure you fortify yourself with the meat of heaven. And make sure that meat is there permanently. Nothing is beclouding, so that you do not understand what is in your brain when God is using you. Now we are seeing here, John the Baptist was very highly temperate. Very highly. Now his diet?
His diet.
Is the spirit of prophet talking about his diet?
Purely vegetable.
It was purely vegetable.
Of locust and wild honey.
Do you see what? The vegetable is called locust. It's not the insect, and I've seen people making bags and bags of those insects called locust, coming to fry them, saying that's what John was saying. You know what? You have to dig, put the sharp deeper in the mine of truth and find what locust is. If peradventure, go and find out where he was preaching and find what is dominating that area is the locust, the plant itself. So he was very highly temperate, made sure the body was the temple of the Holy Ghost. God will use him to prepare the way for God. Now, this is how we identify Elijah. Now, you come talking about Elijah. Go and check the plate. If the plate is not like John the Baptist, that couldn't be. That couldn't be. There is no miracles in terms of diet. That miraculously, I'll just, in a twinkling of an eye, I'll change all that I was eating. No. You have to be temperate from the word God. Now, his diet purely vegetable, of locusts and wild honey. This is what he was eating. Very highly temperate. You wouldn't find anyone like that having any problems health-wise. No, because wild honey, it kills all those viruses, most of them, and also vegetable is highly in boosting your immunity. You have to know exactly how to select those. We are living in a world which is largely, productive of all types of vegetables. So there is no excuse. There is no excuse. You have to make sure you are a vegetarian. Okay, there's still some having eggs and having milk and having, but they should be pulling off. For there is a time, which Sister White says, there is a time we will live without those animal products, especially when there is so much illness in the animal product, in the animal kingdom. And is it not this time? If this time is not the time where the animals are heavily infected, then which one, when you are about to hop in the cloud, which one was she talking about? Which time is it that Sister White was saying there is a time we will never even touch it, because the animals will be full of diseases and illnesses. So here we are seeing Elijah, the very first Elijah manifesting in John. And John was very highly temperate, because he was a product to be used by God. And what?
His diet, purely vegetable, of locusts and wild honey, was a rebuke to the indulgence of appetite and gluttony that everyone. As I'm saying
now, it's a rebuke to some who are ruled by gluttony. It's it's a rebuke. If you talk about vegetarian, that's the only subject where people come to complain that you are judging them. When you talk about diet, the people come to you talking that you shouldn't judge. You think you are holier. You think the only thing is that it's the sword which has gone into the heart to cut it asunder, so that you do what God is saying you should do. You're not judging. We have to teach. Teaching is not judging. Don't misrepresent teaching and judging. Now, here is saying, they were constantly rebuked by his appearance, his simplicity, his way of life, his diet. Those who enjoyed ingesting or eating all these other things, John's life was a rebuke to them. And what? The prophet.
The prophet Malachi declares, "Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. And he shall turn the hearts of the father to the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers."
Right. Let's hear what Sister White says about it at the next sentence.
Here, the prophet describes the character of the work.
Right. Here the prophet is describing the character of the work of Elijah. Right? What is it?
Those who are to prepare the way for the second coming of Christ are represented by the faithful Elijah as John.
Right. What? Those who are to prepare the way for the second coming of Christ are represented by the faithful Elijah, as John came in the spirit of Elijah. Right? Read on.
To prepare the way for Christ's first advent.
Right.
The great subject of reform is to be agitated.
Right.
And the public mind to be stirred.
Right. This great subject of what? Reform? Vegetable or vegetarian. It has to be going along with the third angel's message. They are partners. Those who are to prepare the way of the coming of the second coming of Christ, they have got a great subject to agitate. What is agitate? Agitate, whether people like it or not. Agitate. That subject of reform. You cannot profess to be Elijah when you haven't reformed that way. In dress, in what you eat, in everything. You should be temperate. Right? And
temperance in all things is to be connected with the message.
Temperance in all things is to be connected with the message. And what?
To turn the people of God from their idolatry, their gluttony, and their extravagance in dress and other things.
These are idols. I told somebody that the idol is in your plate, and they say, "What idol?" When you say idol, you don't mean that statue. We mean what you love best, more than what God says live. When God says live, and you love that thing, it's an idol. So that's why Paul says their God is in their belly. That's an idol. Now, read again. I have, if you will Google, but it's on the next. It says here, the Southern Watchman, which was in March 21, 1905. It's there. It's talking about the closing words.
The work.
Yeah?
The work.
The closing words. It's just there where you are reading 3T62 in your WhatsApp.
Okay. The closing words.
Yeah.
The closing words of Malachi are a prophecy regarding the work that should be. The closing words of Malachi are a prophecy regarding the work that should be done preparatory to the first and the second advent of Christ.
Right. So the closing words of Malachi, which is Malachi 4, verse 4 to 6, we saw these are the words that should point to the preparation of the way of the coming of Christ, the first advent and the second advent. It's the Watchman. It's still on the Watchman there, Southern Watchman, March 21, 1905. Say the work of John.
The work of John the Baptist.
Right.
And the work of those who in the last days go forth in the spirit and power of Elijah to arouse the people from their apathy are in many respects the same.
The work of John the Baptist and the work of those who in the last days go forth in the spirit and power of Elijah to arouse the people from their apathy are in many respects the same. So it means there is a similarity in the work of John the Baptist and the work of the current Elijah. Is to prepare for the coming of Christ. John was preparing for the coming of Christ in the first time to die on the cross. And we are to prepare the coming of Christ to establish the kingdom. Those are the two jobs. Who is talking about the kingdom here? We will find out if it is it to talk about the kingdom or to talk about the walking in the cloud. Right? His work
is a type of the work that must be done in this age.
The work of John is a type of our work, right?
Christ is to come the second time to judge the world in righteousness.
What is he coming to do?
To judge.
He's coming to judge. Did we talk about him coming, and in the first week when he arrives, there will be the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, judgment, when it's done in Isaiah chapter 66, it says so. Verse 15, he's coming to judge. How is he coming to judge? Let's go to verse 15, Isaiah 66. Is that the work that we should be preparing the people to expect?
For behold, the Lord will come with fire,
right?
And with his chariots like a whirlwind,
right?
To render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire.
Is he having that incident? Is he coming for that incident? For judgment? To render his fury? He's not yet coming to collect us in the clouds. Yet. He is coming. Yes, Sister White is saying, the second advent of Christ is coming to judge. Now, Isaiah chapter 6, it says, when he is coming with fury. It's not yet the time, because when he's coming to destroy the whole world, it's well after we are coming from the 1,000 years in the millennium. That's where he comes to destroy the devil and everyone with fire. But this time, he is coming to purify those who were receiving the seal first. Those who did not receive the seal. That's the purification he's coming to do. Because he mentions it in verse 15. Go further.
For by fire and by his sword,
right,
will the Lord plead with all flesh.
That's what he is going to be doing. Pleading with all flesh when he comes.
And the slain of the Lord shall be many.
This is the judgment. He's not yet coming to collect us yet. He's got that job he's coming to do. And that's why I say Ezekiel chapter 9 is being fulfilled there. Go further. Come not near anyone with a mark. Slay utterly. This is what we are saying. He is coming with chariot to do that particular work. Somebody should warn the people before that. So he raises Elijah to warn that coming. Not warning the coming of going in the clouds. That one doesn't need a warning, because we are already all settled in the kingdom and all believing one thing, all waiting to go, except those who have received 666 out there, outside the kingdom. So, but this one is the one that he raises Elijah to warn about this impending judgment. Now, who is the prophet of the hour? For those who are preparing to go in the cloud, that's why they say they don't need a prophet. But I wonder if you're just going to bypass the kingdom. That's the problem. The problem is you can't bypass the kingdom. Now, read on.
From
the messenger. Right?
Okay. The messengers of God,
right,
who bear the last message of warning to give to the world,
right,
are to prepare for Christ's second advent,
right,
as John prepared the way for his first.
This is the work that has been assigned to Elijah the prophet, to prepare a way, to warn the people to be ready for this coming, where he's coming to judge, where he's coming to purify, where he's coming for purification, where he's coming to establish the kingdom. That's why this gospel of the kingdom in Matthew chapter 24 verse 14 shall be preached in all the world for a witness. And then suddenly he comes to his temple. That's what he said. This has got to be preceded by the preaching of the prophet. So who is preaching that? It's to you and me to say, has Elijah come? Or what is the nature of Elijah's job? And when, what are we supposed to do? These are the questions that we asked. And we have seen when he comes, when Christ comes, or when Elijah comes, is going to introduce what Christ is coming to do, to warn people. Because I saw, if you go to the last day events, when the time for the, don't go to it yet, if the last day events, you find on those events when Christ comes, people will be having questions to say, you knew about it. Why didn't you warn us? You knew. Why didn't you? People are staying with other people who know about this coming while they don't know. Why? Because they build a wall not to know anything. You remember the Laodicean Malachi? He says, I'm rich and increased with goods. I don't need anything. Yeah? And God said, you do not know one thing. You are wretched, naked, poor, blind. And the worst thing is that know it not. So here, let's go to prophets and kings. We are describing, we want to find this Elijah. We want to help each other as we are teaching and enjoying the feast, and enjoying feasting on the word. Find this prophet. Find Elijah. Identify, and Sister White says, can you take grapes out of thorns? So once we know the message, we will know the messenger. Now, Prophets and Kings, page 186.3.
In the hour of greatest peril, the God of Elijah will raise up human instrumentalities to bear a message that will not be silenced.
In the hour of greatest peril, are we in the hour of greatest peril? The God of Elijah will raise up human instrumentalities
to
bear a message. Do you see? It's something that has to come. We have been enjoying, Zafuti, this and that, singing all sorts of words, all sorts of names of songs. But all of a sudden, it comes a time, there's a break of our security. When God has raised human instrumentalities to bear a message that will not be silenced. Try to silence it. It will speak more louder. So the only thing is, just listen. It says conflict with error, that we think is error, will only make it more manifest. So the only way is listen and obey. Here it says, the message which will be raised by these human instrumentalities will never be silenced. They tried with the reformers. When they were reforming, you remember, after Christ had gone, the early Christians, the more they were killing them, the more their blood was producing more seed. Their blood was seed to speak louder about the name of Christ. Now it's the same here. This message will never be silenced. Whether the death of one person or if a messenger will make more messengers come. Now here it says, go to volume 5, T5, Testimonies for the Church, page 254. Go to the second paragraph.
Okay.
Go in the middle of that second paragraph where a sentence starts with the messages from heaven.
Okay.
You want to hear the message of Elijah from heaven, yeah?
The messages from heaven are of a character to arouse opposition.
Do you see how it is? Meaning, they are not really what we have been believing. They are not what we have been believing. If we have been believing that we are hopping in the cloud, the message is saying, no, not yet. We are going to the kingdom. If you have been believing that to be a vegetarian is just for health reasons only, no, it says that's the only arm God will use to purify the church. It says so in medical ministry. It says so. It's the only arm God will use to purify the church and also to lessen the suffering in the health of the person. So it's not what we, because someone say, I'm healthy, I have no problem eating meat. No. You have a problem. Spiritually, you have a problem. You have a problem. In actual fact, you make more arguments when you are eating that. it goes to cloud your brain so wet that people will say, why is this person arguing when the point is clear? The only thing you can do is that go and unlearn. Go and take off all that you are eating and drink a lot of water and start eating the proper diet. Then you understand these messages. If you can't do that, you'll actually be binding about the work instead of understanding what God is saying. Is it not a mystery that all those who are reforming are those who are attempting to reform in health? Those are the people bringing in truth. Is it not? You eat it, you continue imbibing people with all the things that they know of. They are not even aroused. People need an arousing message. Something that will show them that, hang on, man, what were we doing? This is saying that, this is saying something else. It is of an it will arouse opposition. Right? And start with the messages from heaven. Mm-hmm.
The messages from heaven are of a character to arouse opposition.
Right?
The faithful witnesses for Christ and the truth will reprove sin.
Right. What does the message do to us? The faithful witnesses for Christ and the truth will reprove sin. Anyone with something that is wrong, which is not a thus saith the Lord, we have to discard it or rise up in opposition. Right? And their words
will be like a hammer.
The words are like a hammer to break the flinty heart. Do you understand? Read that sentence again.
Their words will be like a hammer to break the flinty heart, like a fire to consume the dross.
Exactly. The words preached by Elijah, the last servant, the words will be like a hammer to break the flinty heart. The heart is so flinty. That's why we saw in Ezekiel chapter 3 that, you know what? I'm sending you to the house of Israel. Not outside there. I'm sending you to the Sabbath keepers. And he says what? Look, he says, God says to Ezekiel, I have hardened your forehead because they are hard. So I will harden you also. So don't say, that's so hard. It's because also your heart was what? Hard. So God, when you are facing somebody who is hard, you've got to be hard also. When somebody is soft, you are soft. But when somebody is very hard, God hardens you as well. So it goes in relation to what you are, the foe which is in front of you. Now, what is it here? Their words will be like a hammer to break the flinty heart, like a fire to consume the dross. And what else?
There is constant need of earnest, decided messages of warning.
Yeah?
God will have men who are true to duty.
Right?
At the right time,
right?
He sends His faithful messengers to do a work similar to that of Elijah.
Right. At the right time, when people's hearts are so flinty, so hard, that's why He raises a prophet. He raises a prophet because of our spiritual condition. When He raised Elijah to Ahab, what was Ahab doing? Busy worshipping Baal. Yet he was the leader of Israel. And then Elijah was raised. So it's a difficult time really in the spiritual generation. We are so hard. That's why God raises a prophet. Now, let's hear again GCS 8.2.
Do not, though, forget that the messages or the message which he proclaims will in itself bear the divine credentials of truth.
Right. And
that no priest or prelate can decide for you who the Elijah may or may not be.
Right. The words Elijah will speak should bear credential, divine credential. To anyone who is aroused, say, I can feel the word coming straight from God. It should be stamped already by God. And then he says, and that no priest or prelate can decide for you who the Elijah may or may not be. There are some foolish people who run to other people and say, because they are priests, because they are pastors, tell me, is this one Elijah? You are getting yourself misled. No priest, no prelate can decide that. It's God alone who will decide who Elijah is. No one under heaven, as long as the sun is above you, no one will decide that one. Only God will decide who Elijah is. But how do you know? You will know because once the word is spoken by Elijah, it comes with a divine stamp. That's why we say Elijah is spiritually discerned. Why? What did you hear? You heard the words divinely stamped. That's why I say, my sheep knoweth my voice. The sheep of God will discern who Elijah is. Don't ever think he's going to be advertised for you to be awake. It's only those who will be aroused by the message who will know who the messenger is. Now, and what?
No. Not even the appearance of what his message is doing or not doing.
Not even the appearance of what his message is doing or not doing. There are some who brag and say, I preached and 200 people were baptized. You know what? Not even the appearance of whatever you have done or whatever you have not done. That will not stamp Elijah. Elijah will only be stamped by God, and whatever he says, that will be felt by those who are aroused. That is coming from God. And what?
Or whether it is prospering or disintegrating.
Or whether the word is, I've got so many churches in this country, in that country, so many numbers. That won't prove who Elijah is. And what?
Or whether it is prospering or disintegrating can be taken as evidence that God is in it.
No. Right?
Neither can numbers of adherents, for such have never signified a right cause.
Oh, I've got the message from God. That's why I saw so many numbers of people who have been baptized. That won't prove who Elijah is. The numbers won't prove who Elijah is. Because if it comes to numbers, Christ had only 12. And on the cross he had no one. So he couldn't prove with numbers. And what?
Neither can numbers of adherents, for such have never signified a right cause at any time, not even in the day Christ himself preached the gospel of the kingdom. The message he brings is the only thing to go by.
The message that Elijah will bring is the only thing to go by. And which message we have been told? The statutes and judgments, right? And let's go to Appendix. You remember a prophet among you. We studied it last week. Appendix 34, first paragraph.
Among the workers for God, there is a place for every kind of person who is willing to let himself be used.
Right.
Race, nationality, or environment forms no barrier.
God will not consider race.
Nationality.
Not consider nationality. There are some best nationalities, isn't it? There we see nationality by the economy, isn't it? When people are are nationals to someone with a high economy, which is flowering and blooming and beautiful, we think that is a good nationality, isn't it? But God won't consider that. God will not consider race. God will not consider nationality. God will not consider even an environment of where you stay. Those will not be considered by God. And what? Since our attention at present is focused on the Bible, naturally most of the men considered will be Hebrews. Right?
But God is not limited except as men disqualify themselves for his service.
Some think, okay, because we know the people of God of late were Hebrews. Some think, okay, Christ came and was speaking Hebrew as well. Let me even address even Christ by the name, the Hebrew title. God will not be limited to a language. Whether it's English or Hebrew or Shona or anything, all the languages came from the Tower of Babel when God confounded everyone. The language that was spoken before the flood was not the one that came from the Tower of Babel. It was before that. Before the flood, there was a proper heavenly language, which is not all those languages that we know of. So don't waste really your precious time in saying, when you want to speak about Christ, you have to address him in the title, in your language. It's fine. Still fine with God. It's like your prayer. When you pray to God, he hears your Shona, isn't it? He hears your English. He hears whatever language, isn't it? Do you have to change? You don't. Still the same with his titles. You don't have to address him only with one particular language title. No. Why? He's not limited to one language. He's limited to all languages. So when you are an English speaking someone, I can address him like a Lord. Isn't it? Because I'm used to everyone who is superior is called a Lord, isn't it? So that's what I address my Lord with. That's what it means to be a Lord, isn't it? I can address in any language, whatever they superiorize and say this is how we call somebody who is superior, and they call God with that, which is fine. I don't see why we should crack our heads with all these changing languages when you are speaking about God. I don't see really. You have got to prove it. Why you are doing that? Sometimes you're just wasting your time, really. You can address him with any language. He is suitable for everything. And let's go to GCS 8.3.
And since.
And since.
And since the enemy cannot get around the truth,
right?
He does all he can to blacken character and to pick flaws in personality.
Now, the devil cannot come and say, stop keeping statutes, stop keeping 10 commandments. The only weapon that he has is to blacken whoever is preaching about the feast, to make the name sound so bad, because he knows that this is the messenger who is preparing the way for God. The only thing the devil can do is to inspire people to call, to ridicule, to reject, to abuse. This is what the devil can say. Call all sorts of names so that it blacken the character of whoever God has been raised. Whoever has been raised by God. And what?
The prophet's message, nevertheless,
right,
cannot be judged by the behavior of its professors.
Right? In some other groups, we have seen when a prophet is raised, somebody, an adherent or members of that group, if someone in the group has misbehaved, they now start to blacken the whole group, including the prophet's name. So that won't be, that is a tactic used by the devil. But the prophet is only known by the word or the message the prophet will proclaim.
The prophet's message,
right,
nevertheless, cannot be judged by the behavior of his professors. For even the apostles misconducted themselves before the ascension of Christ.
Did you hear that? Even the apostles, what did they do when they were following Christ? They misbehaved. But did it mean Christ was not the true Son of God? No. Even Moses misbehaved before he went to exile there. He killed. He was a murderer. But that won't be used by the devil. Tried by all means to use that. That's why he had so much rebellion in the wilderness. You know, his adherents, Aaron and Miriam, they rejected him once, talking evil about him. And when they were censured by God and given their punishment, when they came back, why was the rebellion so strife in the wilderness? It's because they were pointing at Aaron, what he had done. The same Aaron who had allowed them to build a calf when Moses was 40 days and 40 nights in the mountain. The same Aaron, because of that apostasy which they saw him do, They went on and on throughout the wilderness trying to smear Moses about. Right? The multitude.
The multitude, too, that followed Moses was anything but exemplary. In fact, in many instances, they were disgraceful.
Right?
And the holy men of God who wrote the scriptures were faulty men.
Were faulty. The holy men of God. You see the whole book of Psalms. Who is that writing? It's under David. Do you remember what filthiness he did, this man? Not only taking someone's wife, killing the owner of the wife. But look at how much offense he did. But God used him to write the whole Psalms. One is now repented, is talking about God, and who could hear him? But he was still ordained of God. He was ordained of God. And on 9.1, even Moses, right, himself
was not faultless.
Right?
Regardless, though he was still Moses.
He was still Moses.
And his was the only message and movement for the day.
Right. Moses was not faultless. Right? Was not faultless. He had his faults. But at the end of the day, he was the only prophet leading that movement. Right? Go to 9.2 there. Likewise,
irrespective of considerations of personal faults,
frailties,
and failings, Elijah's message and movement will be the
only God-sent one. Right?
The only ones to fear, to love, to stand by, to live, or to die for.
Right. Once we find who Elijah is, Elijah likewise will be the only God-sent message, the only God-sent prophet.
The only
ones to fear,
to love,
to
stand by, to live or to die for.
Elijah, the prophet, the last prophet, that's the only message ordained of God for this time. And what?
No. There will be no
other shield
when heaven opens
and
the storm breaks in,
and the storm,
all its dread fury upon the world.
Right?
To unavoidably pour down its lethal lightning from the
skies. That's the only message. Like it was with Noah. At his time, he was the only prophet to go by, to fear, to live with, to die for. Noah was the only one, same as Lot, same as Elijah of this time, is the only message to fear, to live for, to go by, to die for. Now here, let's go to the other one so we can wind out. I know it's a long topic. Like I said, those who are timekeepers who are running to do nothing. This is teaching. That's why we teach for a long time, so that we get all the evidence. Imagine what we are running to do. Running to do what? To eat, to do, to... Okay, that's fine. Then two.
Oh, okay. Then
Fourth part. Yeah. Okay.
Then too, no one should forget that when anyone joins the church, he does, if he is in his right mind.
In any place, when someone joins the church, nobody inspires him to do that. He does that
without the approval of his former ministers.
He does not go and say, goodbye, Pastor, I'm going to that other church. I've never seen someone coming to any church doing that. Ask any name of the church. Nobody says bye. And say in Shona they say they don't give a party for farewell that I'm now going to go to another church or what. I've never. This is what they are saying here. No one says goodbye to his former minister.
Neither does he join the church because of large membership or well-behaved people.
It does not join because, I've seen a large gathering or whatever, so let me also be part of it. No.
But because he knows he has heard the truth,
Only when he has heard the truth,
as revealed by the spirit of prophecy itself,
as revealed by the Bible and the SOP itself, only when that person has been convicted in the heart is when he makes a move. No one, not even a parent, not even a relative, will convince you when God has convinced you. Not even anyone. That's why we take we waste our time warning people, be careful, be careful, be careful, be careful, because you ain't seen nothing yet. When God convicts people, that's why in Joel chapter 2 it says, I'll pour out my spirit, that those who were afflicted will be released. Those who are bound, they are released, because the Spirit of God has convicted them. Once one is convicted, it does not say, oh, I haven't gone to. Most people who go to throw a party and say, I know I'm now going to go, they never go. That part makes you cry and say, oh, I think I should stay on. You just do it with, it's like somebody who is ill. Nobody wants you to go to hospital. You simply go. You simply go. Take for instance, when you have a toothache. Do you say, goodbye, I want to go and have my tooth? No. In the morning, you decide for yourself. I have to go. I didn't sleep. I have to go and have it extracted. It's the same as conviction. It's the same as conviction. Those who say farewell, goodbyes, and to friends and loved ones and whatever, they are convinced by those loved ones to recant the truth. Read on. Prophecy.
Since it was in pursuing this wise course that any of us ever came to accept the prophet and the message, so must it still be if we are to know and to receive Elijah. Therefore,
for those who knew Sister White was a prophet, she was coming from another church. The previous church where she was coming from did not know she was a prophet. And only those who joined her knew she was a prophet. And the same thing with the Elijah. Don't ever you think you are going to read in a newspaper to say Elijah is so and so, or see on the TV that this is Elijah. Don't ever you see whether somebody is going to announce to you that it's Elijah. It will be felt by you by getting the conviction from the message. By their fruit, we shall know them. By their message, we shall know them. That's how we knew about Sister White without even meeting her. Who has met Sister White here? Those who are born this time, she died in 1915. All those who lived after, just a few up to 1920 maybe, or 1929. Is there anyone here from 1929? I know my 1920s, my father is still 1920, still alive. Can even tell you that, okay, I was born even way after Sister White was born. So all of us, let's agree. Let us agree. Nobody met her. But her fruit is the volumes that she wrote. Convicted us that was the prophet of the hour. The same thing with the Elijah of the day. You don't even need to know who it is. Just get onto the publication. They will inspire you that they are coming from God. And
therefore,
right,
as never before,
we are reading from Testimonies, volume 6, Testimonies for the Church, page, volume 6, page 420, third paragraph, to those who want to read. Yeah.
Therefore, as never before, we should pray not only that laborers may be sent forth into the great harvest field, but that we may have a clear conception of truth, so that when the messengers of truth shall come, we may accept the message and respect the messenger.
Right. And what is the message of the messenger for this time? Go to Nahum 1 verse 15.
Behold, upon the mountains,
Right.
the feet of him that bringeth good tidings,
Right?
that publisheth peace. O Judah,
Oh, Judah.
keep thy solemn feasts,
Right?
perform thy vows, for the wicked shall no more pass through thee. He is utterly cut off.
What is now warning us? O Judah, keep thy feast. Behold, upon the feet of the mountain. Read it again. That is the message of the hour.
Behold,
Behold.
upon the feet. Behold, upon the mountains, the feet of him that bringeth good tidings,
Right?
that publisheth peace.
Right?
O Judah,
O Judah.
keep thy solemn feasts,
Right?
perform thy vows,
Right?
for the wicked shall no more pass through thee.
Right?
He is utterly cut off.
Perform thy vow.
Keep thy solemn.
Keep thy solemn feast. For the wicked, that's the only message which will win off the wicked, which will show who is right and who is wrong. That's the only message to go by. That's the only message of the hour. That's the only message which will prove who is Elijah. That's the only message which will give us salvation, which will make sure we are prepared for the soon coming kingdom. May God help us as we prepare for this very interesting and exciting kingdom to be established. May God help us and bless this hour of the Sabbath.